Welcome to my channel. Today we'll study some requirements and some tips to name your identifiers like a pro. All Java components require names. Names used for classes, variables, and methods are called identifiers. In Java, there are several points to remember about identifiers. All identifiers should begin with a letter A to Z capital case or A to Z lowercase, currency character, or an underscore. After the first character, identifiers can have any combination of characters, like numbers. A keyword cannot be used as an identifier, like for example, class cannot be used as an identifier. Most importantly, identifiers are case sensitive. Example of legal identifiers like int age equals to 24, or salary starting with a currency character, value starting with an underscore, or even you can put a number after an underscore. Example of illegal identifiers, like an identifier starting with a number, 1, 2, 3, age, or minus salary, or dash salary. Now, while naming your identifiers, when should you use a lowercase or capital case? And especially to look like a professional. Let's create a new Java project. Naming conventions. We uncheck the module info. We create a new class. We call it main, starting with a capital case M. The package is by default called default. And we check the public static void main to have a static main. Here we can see that we don't have a package. We'll try to create a new package and call it, let's say, naming conventions, and starting with a lowercase n. We add a class. The class is also main with a capital M and with a public static void main. Here we can see the package name, naming convention, package naming convention starting with a lowercase n, and the second word starting with a capital case C. The class is main starting with a capital case M, and the method main starts with a lowercase m. Let's create an identifier age equals to 5. So the identifier starts with a lowercase. And if you have an identifier called my age with 2 words or more, so we put the first letter lowercase and the other words start with the capital case. Like for instance here, my age starts with a capital A. Let's say we have an identifier who's the title of the book. Most importantly here, we should not call the identifier as, for example, T or title. So here, for example, we call the identifier as title of book or book title, rather than, for example, string A or B or NB or title. So here we have the class main M starting with a capital case M. Always all classes start with a capital case. So we'll add another class naming starting with a capital case N. It's not a static void main, so it's a normal class who has its package name, naming convention, and we'll add the constructor of the public class name. The constructor is just like the class's name. Here naming starting with a capital case N, Name should start with a lowercase, or input name will start input with a lowercase I, but a capital case N, because as we said, they are two words. And public string return name, return start with a lowercase r, and N is capital case. So here we have the error of returning something. So let's start with return null, just to avoid the error. Then we're gonna add an identifier whose, for example, the name here, string name, will initialize the name. This name equals to name. And then we're gonna return name. To sum up, these are the basic syntax tips I've given you earlier. I hope you liked the video. Don't forget to subscribe.